See, sometimes I just live with the stuff and just don't care.
Yeah, so now this is what that guy was talking about. Hope you don't get electrocuted. Now we got cords out there running.
Make a whole video.
The whole trailer's electrified. It's not fun to do what you got, buddy.
Alright guys, welcome back to a brand new It's Freaking Story Time with the Boys. I have a special guest for you, episode 5. We got Paisteboy here. I couldn't be more excited, man. I mean, to tell you, I start off all the time telling people how I met people. This is our first official meeting. I had been in the Snowmobile Session podcast when I figured out we're not in the area you live.
Right.
And I had said, oh, Maddie's is in town. You're like, that's only a minute away from me. I'm like, well, if it's a minute away from him, it must be like 30 seconds from me.
Yeah.
And just from there, I ended up meeting Shag, and then...
He still hasn't given us that stuff that you gave him to give to us.
He told me 3 days ago, and I didn't want to put him on the spot, but since you're his boy.
I mean, I just saw him Tuesday night, so I see him all day. It's not like he's carrying it around with him.
Yeah.
But
so you had commented on Sometimes Now Greg's his video, and you're like, hey, he lives apparently in my area. And a lot of guys don't know that I actually live in the Rochester area. Everybody thinks that I live on Tug Hill.
And I did too until you met Shag.
Right.
Because Shag was the one that told me that you live around the corner from us, and so I'm like, wow, small world. People probably think I live near Old Forge, even though it's 3+ hours away. But yeah, we live in the same town, and who knew, right?
He had started his video at the Burning Dairy.
Right.
And I go,
yes.
Hey, that's my Burning Dairy. He goes, what?
Yep. Yeah, we always go there to fuel up.
Yeah.
It's a big gas station. You can pull up with the trucks and trailers. And so we're always filling up there. Yeah. Yep.
So that's a story of how we kind of met. So this is our first official meeting. I'm excited about this. I mean,
me too.
It's such a small world, and there are a lot of good guys in the snowmobiling world. So let's get going.
All right.
So when you're not snowmobiling, what are your hobbies?
Hobbies, I am a drummer actually in a couple of bands. Haven't played since COVID because, with all that going on, the clubs were shut down, and then essentially the bands, some things had happened in the meantime, so we decided to just kind of put a halt on that. So even though, I am a musician, not currently working with that. That's my main hobby, yeah. When I was younger, I wanted it to be my career, but everyone knows how hard it is to make it in rock and roll. So once I hit about 30, I realized, hey, it's time to, do it for fun.
Right.
And so now it's,
You guys play rock and roll? Is that what you play?
Yeah, I have one band that plays 80s covers. Like hair band stuff, Motley Crue, that type of stuff, with 2 of my brothers and 2 other guys. And then I have an original band that also plays what was called modern rock in the 90s, late 90s. That band there, so we've mixed it up with originals. We have 2 full-length, one full-length CD and one that we actually recorded during the shutdown during the pandemic. Since we couldn't play out, we recorded 10 songs that we should have recorded 20 years ago.
That's awesome. Well, you made it. You've made CDs.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Been on the radio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've been on probably about 4 or 5 radio stations. We've actually played live a couple of times on WCMF, homegrown, live playing on the radio. Yep.
I just heard Brother Weeze on the radio the other day, not to get off topic.
Yeah.
Man, it's sounding pretty old.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
He's a brother.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into the snowmobiling stuff. How many years do you think you've been snowmobiling?
Well, so, even though I wasn't riding, my dad actually bought a brand new Skidoo when I was probably about 3.
Okay.
And he only had it for a couple of years, and my oldest brother, who was 11 years older than me, rode it all the time, not my dad. And then he sold it, like I said, after a couple of years, because he really wasn't using it. But I do kind of remember that snowmobile. So that was my first introduction to snowmobiling. Then we moved out to this area. We had acreage, and so me and my other brother Zook, some of you may know, we wanted to start riding snowmobiles. So our dad, my brother knew a friend at school that had one for sale. Dad gave us the money. We got that old sled. It was you want me to tell you what sled that was?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a 1974 Boaski 440 SS, which in today's day, it's not that fast.
Right.
It did about 60, but when you're 12 and 14, it's pretty fast. But that thing was a suicide machine. There was something wrong with the throttle cable. It worked fine until it didn't, and then it would get stuck wide open, and we almost got hurt a couple of times.
And those throttles are stiff too, so if they get frozen in there, there's stuff. Man.
I don't know if it was a frayed wire or what was going on with that, but it happened 2 different times. One time, it just, my brother and another friend fell off simultaneously because the thing was going wide open. It headed through a farmer's field and then went down a ravine and climbed a tree, ripped the hood off, and that snowmobile had a gas tank under the hood in the front. That popped out, and we finally got to the sled. It probably went a quarter mile, like on its own, before it hit that tree.
Oh my goodness.
And then we got to it, we put the gas tank back on, and it had, just like a tube that went right in the tank there. Plug that in, throw the hood back on, and started right up, and we started riding again. The second time, a friend of ours was riding it. We had like 7 acres where I grew up, and he was riding it through our backyard, and he was heading toward the woods, and all of a sudden it got locked up. And when that would happen, I don't know if it jolted or what, but it seemed like it always knocked us off when that would happen. He jumped off because he couldn't get it to stop. He was holding on to the back bumper for a while, but then when he saw it was going to the woods, he let go, and that finally got stopped by one ski going under a downed tree, ripped the ski right off.
Wow.
And then we ended up having my brother, Zook, was taking machine shop in high school at the time, so he made the new part from scratch in class.
Oh, that's great.
And then my uncle welded it for us, and we put it back on, and that ski every now and then it would flip backwards. You have to get off and straighten it out. But yeah, that was a fun sled. We rode that for 3 or 4 years.
That's awesome.
Our first sled, yeah.
That makes me think of my dad had bought, before I was old enough to ride, an old Skidoo. I couldn't tell you what year it was, maybe a 76 maybe or something. And by the time I got old enough, I destroyed the thing. I mean, I feel bad. I was a kid, he let me on it. And one time I was cutting the corner at my grandpa's, took the ski right off of it, you had to put the ski back on. Just different things, man. They were a little dangerous.
Did that sled have a leaf spring suspension in the front with the little shocks on it?
There was no shocks, it was just the leaf springs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's old school, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then when that sled had enough, because those older sleds, they were, run a little rough, so we would always start it with a little can of starter spray, but that's not good for a 2-stroke, right? So eventually we burned it up. Another guy down the street had a 67 or 65 Boaski. This thing looked like the prototype of all snowmobiles. The hood looked like a smiley face. And we rode that for a few years too. Track broke. We took the track off the old Boaski. It fit. So we rode that for a couple of years too, until then we got to an age where we had a little bit of money.
Right.
And we started buying a little bit of decent sleds.
Get what you wanted.
Yeah.
So that covered what was what was your first snowmobile? Do you know your timeline of why do you upgrade? Like when you upgrade, are you doing it at a certain time, or are you just saying, all right, this is the year?
Well, when we were younger, like I said, as soon as we could afford something, so maybe I was my early 20s, I bought my first, what I considered a decent sled. It was like an early 80s Arctic Cat LT Grade 5000. Right. It was air-cooled, free air, you know what I mean? Not even a fan.
Yeah.
And Shag and I and Gary and Zook, we'd go up to Old Forge because, that's where we started riding at that age. And his dad has the cabin up there, so we started going up there with that. But that sled was used to being here, and that altitude, it would always overheat.
Really?
So the LT grid ran right here, terrible in Old Forge. So a year later, got rid of that. Our friend of ours that lived down the street, a little bit older guy than us, was ready to get out of it, and he had 2 Yamahas. early 80s, I think in 81 and 83. I got the 83, Zoom got the 81.
Are they like the phasers where it has like the
Something like that.
Kind of like the Vinos?
Yeah, they were fan cooled, and they were, you know, nicer sleds for us at the time, and they ran great. You know, 2-stroke Yamahas back then. And we kept those until January of 1998. By then I was already married for like 4 years, and I had 1 kid and 1 on the way, and the wife, you know, you guys know how it is. You want to go out riding and they're home with a young kid.
Right.
It's not the best situation, so I thought that was a good time to get out of the sport for a little while. So I sold that 83 Yamaha SS 440. Then basically within that season, so did the rest of the guys. They all sold their sleds and we all got out of it for a little while.
So Zook's your brother.
Yes.
Are you lifelong friends with Shag? Like you guys been through school, like
Absolutely.
grade school, or?
We moved onto the same street as Shag when I was 10 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was 9.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was 9, and I asked a couple of other kids that I had met first, is there anybody in the neighborhood with a mini bike or a dirt bike? Because that's my new best friend, right? Because that's what I was into. I had mini bikes and stuff, so he says, yeah. You know, he didn't call him Shag, but he said, Shag down there, you know. So I went down there and met him. He and his brother had a YZ80, and we headed off because motorsports is what we'd like to do. Now, obviously, a lot of our friends weren't into that stuff, and we were still friends. But that was a big thing, and that's why we're still friends to this day, because we always had that connection. And then when Shag was in 7th grade, he went to a private school and met Gary there, and he introduced Gary to us. Yeah, so he and Gary's into all that stuff, and that's why we still, you know, close with Gary.
So when you got back into it, what was the sled you went to when you got back?
So what happened was, so it was like maybe 2005 or 6. Out of the blue, Shag just decided to buy a sled that he saw on, I don't even know, maybe back then it was still swap sheet. It's, you know, it's hard to remember what was even available back then.
I think Craigslist was.
Was it Craigslist?
Yeah, I think it was Craigslist.
So it probably was Craigslist. So he bought a sled, and then I think within that year or so, that sparked Gary's interest in buying a sled. So then my brother Zook buys a sled, and at the time it just wasn't a good time for me to get back into snowmobiling in 2006. My kids were still a bit younger, and like Gary didn't even have kids, and my brother didn't have kids, so it was easy for them. So it was 2010, I got a minivan for the family, and I wasn't trading in the car that you know, toward the minivan. So whatever money I got for the car I had at the time, I put toward a sled. And Gary knows a lot about sleds, so he went with me. We found that it was a 2000 MXZ 700 all black spring brake special. Yep, it was clean. It didn't have any of the decals on the hood, so I don't know if somebody cracked it up at one point
and just replaced
and replaced the hood and didn't have decals or whatever. But so I had that sled. It was October of 2010 when I got that, and then right away I started making videos about the sled. I had both back shocks rebuilt because the guy I bought it from said the front shocks were already rebuilt. So I pulled the skid, I changed all the idler bearings and everything new, you know, had to put the shocks back in, all kinds of stuff. I mean, the videos are there on YouTube from way back then, 2010. I did a whole mess of stuff to the sled, and it kind of, you know, because if you do something, you know, anybody, you could go grab a 2000 MXZ right now. If you do a bunch of videos on it and how to, you know, fix things and repair, you know, or, you know, maintain it or whatever, people are gonna still have those sleds, and they're gonna watch it. So
a lot of people do.
That's how it got started with the sleds on the channel too.
Awesome.
Yep, and I had that sled. I rode that sled for 5 seasons. Yeah.
Were the moguls pretty big still up there around the time you had that sled?
Yeah, there were times where it wasn't a lot of fun when the trails get rough. You know how that gets.
Oh yeah.
And that old, you know, ZX chassis is not gonna, you know, it might have been the cat's ass, you know, back in 2000. But it was already 10 years old by the time I got it, and there's been so much advance in that 10 years.
Yeah, and they're doing such a better job of grooming too.
Yeah.
My dad had the 583 and I rode it a couple times. I'm like, I don't know how you do this, man.
Yeah.
This is not for me.
I don't know if the first, I believe, okay, so there's a story now behind the MXZ that the first year, it was 2010, so it would have been the winter season of 2010, 2011. Got my Old Forge trail permit. We're all ready to go. It was maybe January 11th where we're gonna head up to Old Forge for our first trip of the year. First time back in Old Forge since the late 90s. Or actually, no, I take that back. I did go up with, my brother had 2 sleds at one point before I bought the MXZ. So, second time back up since the early 90s. And Gary and I pick up the sled and we go to stick in the back of his truck and I rupture my left arm bicep tendon, drop the sled right on the ground. There goes the trip and I had to have surgery.
Oh.
My season was over.
That sucks.
I made one more video where I rode like this with my wife on the back. Before the following week the surgery was. So after that it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth and I didn't buy an Old Forge trail permit, I believe, for the next 2 seasons in a row. So I said I'm just gonna ride local. And I didn't have my own, well, maybe by then I did have my own trailer. My brother and I went half and half on an open trailer or something like that. So I was kind of at the mercy of Gary and Shag to get around too.
Right.
So I said, I'm just going to ride local for a little while.
That's tough too, using when you have your friends, you're trying to bum a ride or...
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of the fun out of it.
Yep. So I don't know if you want me to keep telling this story.
You're fine.
So, like I said, two more seasons go by, I don't buy an Old Forge trail permit. Finally, I buy another one, and I want to say it was 2013. You'll see the video on YouTube. It's called A Little Cracked Up. So we get to Old Forge, and by now I've been making YouTube videos on snowmobiling for 3 seasons.
Right.
And any of you guys know that make snowmobiling videos, if you bring cameras with you on the trails, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So as soon as we get to Old Forge, the very first ride, I say, I'm riding for me today. You know, because we're going to be there for a couple of days. I didn't bring my GoPro, I didn't bring my handheld camera, I didn't bring nothing. Left it all in the cabin, and we went out riding. We were very far. We weren't even on the trail yet at this point when the thing happened. I shouldn't have been speeding, but I hit the gas. I was probably doing about 40 miles an hour, and then Parker turned in front of me. But like I said, we were still kind of in a parking lot.
Right.
It looks like a huge trail, but it's not. And so I couldn't stop in time, and I wasn't going to hit him. So I fishtailed, rolled the sled a couple times. And that was the end of that trip. Bent the bars all up and everything. So I rode that just to breakfast the next morning and back. So no riding, no footage and no riding for me for that trip. So there's the second bad experience in a row. You think I would have hung it up, right? But then after that came back, Gary's got all kinds of parts. Gave me a set of bars, fixed up the sled. Did crack the windshield. Eventually I replaced that before I sold it, but. Yeah, and then after that, it was pretty much smooth sailing, but it's still a 2000 MXZ, So then fast forward to 2015, I go on to the Skidoo website, and I'm just looking at prices, and I see the 600 Sport, the carb, and I'm like, $7,200, that's not a lot of money, so I'm like, man, I could, maybe I could buy a brand new sled. So I go to Cooper's Sales and Service at the time, and I walk in and I start talking to the owner, and I'm like thinking, mention the 600 carb, model, but he's got a nice Blizzard in there. Now, it's not like I can't afford stuff, but at the same time, the difference between a 600 carb Sport, model, and the Blizzard was a lot more.
Right.
A lot more, So, but once I saw it, I was like, man, this is just so much better.
That's my girl.
Yeah. I mean, the shocks are better. They're rebuildable. Yeah. It had the advanced gauge. Yeah. It had, it just had the feature. It had the Pilot TS skis. It had the Ice Ripper track. It was just a far, hands down, far better sled. And I thought about it for a couple of weeks, and then finally I said, you know what? I'm making some money on YouTube, and it can pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's what made me decide. I would, if it wasn't for doing this kind of stuff, and it makes it, easier to afford this sport, because this is an expensive sport, and if you got to pull that out of your paycheck when you got a mortgage and kids and car payments and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to justify for 3 months a year.
If that.
Yeah. So
these days.
But one day I got out of work and I just drove straight to Cooper's, and I put a deposit down on the sled. That was like middle of October, and it came in, I think it was December 13th that year, and we hadn't been out on a ride yet. Went to put the 2000 MXZ for sale, and all the offers I was getting back then were low balls, so I didn't let it go. I didn't sell it till the following year.
Right.
Yeah. I kept it for a whole year, just sat. I didn't ride it, just started it periodically. That's about it.
I've tried to do that, and it just ends up sitting.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a buddy that doesn't have a sled you want to ride or something, it's hard to do, and it's expensive, like you said.
Yeah.
That's a Blizzard that's in the garage?
Yeah.
That's the same sled?
That's the 16
Nice.
Blizzard, yep.
Awesome.
And I put, well, I don't know if it might be one of your questions here.
Well, the next question is, what mods do you like to do, if any?
So, yeah. It depends. These sleds come well equipped, but you can always add something.
Right.
So I added to the Blizzard, I got the tunnel reinforcements, and to be honest, I didn't think it needed them. I just liked that it was a black tunnel, and those were yellow.
Yeah.
So I gave it some accents, and it couldn't hurt, right?
Well, I have feelings about that.
Yeah.
Because I had a Renegade, not to cut you off,
Mm-hmm.
an 04, and I pulled the suspension through the tunnel.
Wow.
And when I went and bought the 09, that was the first thing I bought was reinforcements, and I always made sure those 2 bolts were tightened, and then I put those 2 reinforcements, because that's the one thing that I don't like about Skidoo is when you walk into their buildings and they have a whole wall of reinforcement.
Yeah.
$20 here for it. It's like, just put them on for us, man.
Yeah. It's like Harley. It's the same thing.
And when you're like me, I'm a bigger guy. I've been through a lot of shocks where I'd have to replace shocks, and I got it down pat now, but in the past I didn't, man.
Yeah. No, you got to know what you need for your riding style, your weight, your setup. Yeah. No, you're right. So with that sled, so that was one of the things I got, and then I always wanted a GPS because I want to know where I am. I want to be able to go on trips to places I don't know where they are and stuff. So I got the glove box extender, the glove box liner, and the Garmin Montana 650T.
Nice.
Those weren't cheap, but nothing is, right?
Right.
So I had those put on, and trying to think if off the bat I got the cover for it. I got the good cover. That was like $250, and then I still added more stuff to it. So later, that was the first season. So I had all that stuff. Oh, I also had the double USB plug into the glove box, so I could charge my phone and whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean, while I'm riding, and that's awesome because like the GPS is hardwired into the sled, so you could leave that running all the time, and you know what I mean. It'll charge it, and then if we would just stop on the Trailside, I'd leave it on because it's not going to drain that battery.
Also, you could turn your sled off and then leave the GPS on.
Exactly. Yep. And then when you hop back on, it just starts charging it, so it never dies.
Yeah. That's cool.
And then I would take it off when we go in. It's got a mount release, that it comes you buy with it, and bring it in. And then I got the lower windshield. Yeah. And then I got the wind guards on the handlebars, which I got from Dennis. And then I got, I don't know if this is all in chronological order, but I got the 2-up seat. I made a video of that, and believe it or not, I've never used the 2-up seat with a backrest. Never used it once. Had intentions of using it, never did. You never know. This might be the year to use it.
So my dad has a 2-up, and we didn't put on any of the backrest, and that is like a jet ski seat, nice and soft, comfortable.
Yes.
He loves it.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, if I could have this, I would do it too.
Yeah, Dennis has the has the 2-up seat on his Enduro with the backrest, and he just leaves that on all the time because if he's going to go out with his wife, you know, she just wants to be a passenger now.
Right.
So that's how they do it. And but like I said, I got the two up with the backrest. The good thing is it's, you know, a click and
Yeah.
you change it out. I also got the bag. I don't know how many liters it is, but it was whatever bag was around at the time. And so I got that bag, and that made it a lot easier. 'Cause I did have the glove box extender, but
Right.
then I started using the black crab legs on the bumper mount for, you know, getting GoPro footage behind
Yeah.
myself, in front of myself, and so that was a good place to store that. Plus, I could put any things I needed to carry around as well.
Did you got the heater in your glove box? Did you say that?
No, there's no
Oh.
heater in there, but it was warm enough because of the engine
The
heat.
engine, yeah.
That and I never had a problem with my phones ever.
That's the stuff I struggle with. My battery's dying. Obviously, we know the whole GoPro. You
Yeah.
pay a fortune for them. They can't give you a battery that lasts more than 20 minutes in the ice.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that, and I just bought a drone too. I want to do like Tadbolt's Corners and stuff, just park and get the traffic coming through. And those batteries are the same way. You have to keep them close to you. So I was pondering putting they got a little pad you put underneath there. I haven't done it yet. I don't do anything. I always talk and I never end up doing it. I just want to get out there, record and ride, and then sometimes just not record at all and just ride.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel you there. Because it's a lot of work, and you feel obligated to do it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you might miss the best shot ever.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're not prepared, and then, you know, guys out there, they like seeing it, so you might as well catch something.
And to be honest, it's another hobby. Like I never talk about it in any of my videos. Like, this is a hobby, but even if I don't get the views and stuff, I just love knowing that I have a place for my videos for the rest of my life.
Exactly,
You know, my
the
friends and
memories.
family, the memories.
Absolutely. I love that about YouTube
it's
because,
awesome.
you know, you're right. I mean, I've got just snowmobiling alone, what, 11 seasons of snowmobiling on YouTube already? Yeah. So, back to touch on the GoPro, you're saying, you know, you get 20 minutes, 30 minutes out of it. What I've always done, since I started with the GoPro Hero 2, and that came in a housing.
Yep.
And then I had a Hero 4 that had a housing, but I had a special battery backpack on it that got me like 3-4 hours of record time. So when I finally upgraded to the 7, when it first came out, the battery was in a different spot where it didn't connect from the back, so they had this one that like kind of encompassed the thing around it, and it glitched on me the first time I tried doing a test recording. I returned that, and I just bought a bunch of batteries. But what I did with the 7, and I have the 8 as well, I bought that the following year just so I'd have two great cameras that could get good stable footage. I have the super suit on both of them, and I get at least 50 minutes out of a battery in the cold.
Oh wow!
Because it's protecting the battery from some of the elements.
So you see my setup? Sometime has now put me onto this.
Okay.
I bought that. There's a battery pack, a charging pack over there.
Yep.
That sucker will run for 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah.
So and then
so do you just put that in your pocket?
I haven't got a chance to use it. I bought it after the season. And I actually just picked up a second one because I also started with a 2, and then I bought a 7, and then sometimes now actually sent me a 7 and that 9.
Okay.
And
he sent you the cameras?
Yeah. He's such a nice guy, right?
How you doing, buddy? I did chat with him a little bit earlier.
Dude, he's awesome. He came out to my camp, and he videoed me taking the sleds out. I did a little video. We had a good time. Got to chat for a long time. But I ended up buying a second one so I can run. I'll leave one of those in the glove box, and then to get my rear angle maybe, and just leave it in my pouch or in the back or something, and I don't have to worry about. I was pulling over every like 20 minutes with the other batteries. Like what the? And you get stressed out because you want to post the video and you want it to be good. You know. Yeah.
The memory card too. You got to have a good size memory card. So I got a couple things up my sleeve this year. Not going to divulge anything just yet, but. Yeah, I got a couple of new, you know, it's not groundbreaking or anything, but, you know, you were talking about the battery life and stuff like that, so I'm going to dabble in some new territories with the recordings. We'll see what happens.
Hey, anything that makes your riding easier.
Yeah.
Because it is fun recording when your stuff works right, you know? Absolutely. That's why I don't ever use a microphone. I see these guys that are like, oh, the microphone cut out. I do not want that to happen because I'll go nuts.
Yeah, and you know I do voiceovers in my videos, and
I'd rather do a
Yeah.
voiceover than have my mic cut out while I'm riding.
There's an up and down side to that. So with having the mic, you could talk about whatever's on your mind at
Right.
that moment, and if something is going on at that moment. But by the time you get home and you got 3 hours of footage
Right.
of riding, you don't remember what was going on.
Or where it's at.
Yeah. So you're trying to recollect, all right, where am I? Where are we going? What are we doing? And then you have to have something to say. So, that's why I'm not always necessarily talking
Right.
about the ride. It might be something about the area, it might be something about whatever. But that really it makes the video about 10 times longer to edit. Because you're not just grabbing a clip of you already speaking. And so it is a lot of work. But I have looked back at some of my older videos where it was just, 5 solid minutes of riding,
Right.
with no talking, and then we pull over and we talk on the Trailside with the handheld camera. And even me, I had a hard time watching some of those old videos with nothing going on except the riding. Because there's just, at least with a narration, even if you're talking about baking cookies, it's still, it's something for your mind to gravitate toward, a topic.
Yeah. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's fun though.
Yeah.
What I know you guys ride all over the place, so
Yeah.
do you have a primary area
Yeah.
like you do all the time, or?
We ride mostly in Old Forge. There's 2 reasons. First was that Cheg's dad has a cabin there that he built when, in the early 70s. So we always had a place to stay if we're going to travel that far away.
Right.
That's primarily why we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't go to Tug Hill very much because it's going to be a day trip because we don't know where we're going to stay if we go there. So we primarily ride in Old Forge. But when the weather is good, closer to home, we will, like last year, if you look back at my videos, we were launching a lot from Genesee County Park.
Yeah. You went to Buffalo a couple times too, right?
No, that was the very first trip we went out that way, Hamburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but we were heading that way, but like toward Bliss.
Bliss, that's what I remember.
Bliss. We rode to Letchworth a couple of times last year, so that's the season. Once it hit, it stuck around, and we were able to drive, only 30 minutes or 45 minutes and get on some really decent trails. We ran into a guy, though, that we were at Genesee County Park there, where we launched a number of videos I did last year from there, starting there, and we met up with, subscriber, and he rode all the way from here, and he happened to run into us there in the parking lot. And he was in the video, too.
I had a guy, well, I didn't have a guy. I met a guy I hang out a lot at the Hayloft. I met a guy at the Hayloft who, he drove his truck up from here, from Rochester, and his son simultaneously rode all the trails, had to ride over to Letchworth and then cut back in up to Redfield.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think he said it was like a 12-hour ride. His dad carried oil, he ended up running out of oil, he had to fill oil up. I was like, that's an impressive. I would love to do that, but now that I'm getting older, I'm like, these little 100 miles are enough for me,
Yeah. Yeah, no, we always want to take, destination trips, but they're harder to plan when there's not enough snow.
Weather,
Yeah. So like ever since I got the blizzard, Shag's always like, man, we got to make a trip. We got to just like start, close to home and ride, and we've ridden from here all the way to Warsaw and stuff like that, but maybe once or twice, you know what I mean? So it seems like the winters are changing a bit.
Yeah, it's different. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, where we're at now. This year is looking like it's going to be a season more like last year, where it's going to hit in early to mid-January.
It's going to be, if it's snowing, you got to go.
Yeah. And then hopefully it stays cold. That's the main thing. If it stays cold, the snow will stick around. You just need to put a little bit more on every now and then.
Right.
Yeah. So the Tug gets blasted though with snow. Yeah. I mean, we rode last year, the first day of spring at Tug Hill.
Makes it nice, man.
Yeah.
That's why I love staying there. What do you enjoy about snowmobiling?
A big part is the camaraderie.
It's almost like it's a loaded question because we all, you're not even part of my group, and
right, exactly.
It's going to be
almost. It will be soon. But, so it's like if I always think about, like, I get these crazy ideas in my head, like, I'm going to retire and move to, I don't know, northern Canada or something. It's like, nobody's going to be with me, and then I'm not going to want to ride. So that's out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could ever move out of this country. But it's just, in the back of your head that, in a way, I'm absolutely thrilled that I was born in America and live in America. But there's some upsides to being Canadian too, even though you don't have Florida and in California and all those kind of places. But you've got the wilderness out there. That you got a lot of open space. Your snowmobiling season, depending on how far north you go, lasts way longer. I mean, we do have Alaska, but I don't know if you've ever been snowmobiling in Alaska. I haven't.
Have you ever been to Canada?
Oh, many times. I have family in Canada.
We went to North Bay 2 years. Well, I did 2 years in a row. The guys.
I've never ridden there though.
Oh, it's like $3.90.
Grew up going.
Like
that's what made my dad buy that canoe, right? My dad, when he first immigrated from Italy, he went to Canada. Then he met my mom. My mom was also from Italy. They met, and he moved here because she was already became an American citizen. So he moved to America, but he still had a brother and sister with their families in Canada.
Right.
So we used to go to Canada a lot, quite often, all year long.
Right.
You know what I mean? Growing up.
Yeah.
And so we were always, and they lived in Oakville. That's where that, what's an Energy Power Sports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Gary's sponsor there. So.
John Luke, was that his name?
Yeah. So that's where we would go. And then my mom, ironically, because when immigrants come from Italy, they don't all go to the same place. So my mom has a bunch of cousins, aunts, and uncles that immigrated to Toronto. Okay. And so I had my mom's side in Toronto and dad's side in Oakville. And so we were always going to Canada multiple times a year. But my dad, every time we'd go to Canada, he'd see those snowmobiles all over the place. One of these days I'm going to get one, he'd say, and he did. And, but, yeah, it was quite a few years ago, and now, we're into it, big time. I'd like to go up there and ride. I just know that right now, with COVID and all those kind of things, it's going to be a little bit more of a hassle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Than it would have been in 2019.
And they're like locked down more than.
Yeah, they are. They're still wearing masks to bed and stuff.
I went to the post office today to bring up masks.
Yeah, right.
Everybody was wearing a mask. I was like,
I'm not a fan of the mask.
I'm not either. Yeah. And I don't like to put my stuff out there, but I'm just like, it didn't matter 2 days ago, so why does it matter today?
I got fully vaccinated. That way, I wouldn't have to wear a mask. I'm like, this is the only thing that's gonna end this. Right. So I went out and got vaccinated. Back in April, and look where we are now.
Yeah. Same
But
spot.
that's part of the local, not local, state politics. Yeah. It really is. Because if you go to Florida, I went to Florida in August, I didn't have to wear no mask, no nothing, nowhere.
One of my friends went there just this past week, and he's like, it's a different world there. Mm-hmm. You want me to bypass the picture question?
Yeah, for now.
So, I know you had said when we were talking in the beginning that you didn't really have a favorite loop because you ride so many places. Right. So let's kind of go past that, and all these places you go, do you have a favorite food destination that sticks out?
Oh yeah, when we go to Old Forge, it's definitely Tony Harper's.
Tony Harper's, right.
And I forgot who I saw recently somewhere that finally we met, and that watches the videos, and he's like, you guys don't eat much. They're like, you guys never eat. So we'll go to Old Forge, we'll eat like one meal. Right. And we're just riding and riding. So
I don't like to eat like that. It starts rocking around.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. If you're really gonna ride, you can't be riding with full stuff anyway. So we go to Tony Harper's. Gary is a picky eater, so he likes the stuff they have there. And so we just end up gravitating there.
Very cool.
We used to go to different places here and there, but it's just like Old Faithful. Just go to Tony Harper's. Get the Mountain Maniac or whatever pizza. It's a clam place. Pizza and clams. I don't think we've ever gotten the clams. Have gotten the prime rib though. Yeah.
Those are few far between these days. Prime rib spots.
Yeah. So they had it on Saturdays.
Yeah.
So we try to go up when we can midweek, because there's less traffic, but most of us have to take off.
We don't talk about that on my channel. No. The weeks are for us. Yeah. I mess around about that. because I don't know if you watched any of them where I'm like, we're always talking about, like, you're talking about the best trail.
Yeah.
Well, somebody might go there on a Saturday. You got to know where to go and what day of the week to go and watch the weather. So you might have a guy who's like, Slowly and Paisteboy said this was the best loop, but that was terrible.
Right.
You didn't look at the weather and go to the right place.
No, that's true. No, you're right. I mean, like Old Forge, really, the inner trails is just a big racetrack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not familiar with Tug Hill much because we've only, ridden there sporadically.
Right.
But it does remind me in a lot of ways of Old Forge.
Right.
Because some of the trails are, seasonal roads and whatnot. The thing about Old Forge, the other reason why we ride there a lot is because you gotta have a trail permit to ride there. The groomers are paid town employees.
Yep.
It's the only place in the whole state where you need a permit to ride. And it costs $80 pre-season. It used to be $65 and then $80 if you get it after November 15th. But last year they raised the price to $80 pre-season, $100 in season. But still, for the trails, the way they groom them out there, it's worth it.
Yeah. It's a sport,
I know Tug Hill probably gets way more snow.
Listen, I might go up on top of the hill once or twice a season, if that.
Okay.
And it's if I'm up there during the week and I can just I call it going around the horn, where we go up C5, Flat Rock, come back around through Table's Corners, Old Railroad Bed, and I'll do that during the week. Very rarely I'll watch the weather and I like to go south when you're there, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys in Old Forge. When you're there long enough, you start to say, all right, the Weekend Warriors are going to go this way, so let's go X marks the spot this way or whatever.
I leave it up to Gary and Shag. They're usually leading the pack. And now that we have communicators, it's awesome, because we can communicate. Last year, Duke bought one, and now Zook finally got a communicator, so he's going to have his for this year.
Me and my dad need to get those.
Yeah.
Every year I say it, and then that Colette went under, and I'm like, oh, now what do I buy?
Oh, yeah. There's a handful of reputable companies out there. Like one of the old timers was Chatterbox.
Yep.
They've been around since the beginning of communicators, and they're still around. They're not as big as maybe some of these new modern Bluetooth companies, which work great if you can see who's riding in front of you. But for two reasons, we went with the Chatterbox communicators. We all wear the BRP modular helmets with the breath box on them. So
the microphone right inside the breath box. Yeah.
Right. So if any other communicator, if you put the microphone in the breath box, it's going to sound like you're talking in a tunnel with a towel over your face. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what we do is we got the Chatterbox X2 Slim P, and that is a CB radio, or not a CB, like a walkie-talkie.
Walkie-talkie.
Okay, so it's a radio. So that it didn't even phase the microphone that it's inside that closed area. You talk, and it's so clear from helmet to helmet. It's got a 2 to 5 mile range. Obstructions don't matter. Last year, Dennis and I, we were pulling into, I can't remember what park this was. We were out on a ride out toward Letchworth and stuff, but we weren't quite to Letchworth or anything. So we were in this park, and Dennis and I get out of the wooded area, and we turn, and then we look, and Zook and Shag weren't behind us after a while, and Duke was like, oh, I'll guarantee you they kept going straight. And now we didn't know for sure where they were. So I just hit up on the communicator, and Shag was probably a half mile away at least.
Wow.
And he was like, oh yeah. And then, we caught back up with them.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And I could say, personally, if I think they worked at least a mile away, but they say 2 to 5 mile range. But it's a pretty powerful communicator because it is like a walkie-talkie.
Right.
And then it still has all those Bluetooth functions that you want, where it connects to your phone. You can answer phone calls, you can listen to music, and it even has an FM radio built into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All I care about is the music. I don't care about the other stuff.
the truth is, all any of us care about is being able to talk to each other when we need to.
Or even, there's a rock.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it. It's about communication. It's not, we don't even chit-chat, much. It's more or less something important. Okay, do you want to go this way or do you want to go that way? Where before, we'd have to stop.
Right.
And then you're yelling at each other with your helmet. It stunk, and we finally bit the bullet and got the communicators. And the very first time that Gary and I got the first two, we went up to Old Forge, and as soon as we used them, we were worried because I installed them both in our helmets here at my house. We put our helmets on, and they sounded a little weird in the house. We're like, oh man, I hope these work.
Right.
We get up to Old Forge, we put them on. The first word, we're like, oh my God, this is awesome. I don't know if it's because now we were outside or what the difference was, but the sound was clear. You could understand everything, and you weren't trying to yell. It wasn't distorted, and it just made every ride since then that much better because you didn't have to
save time too.
Yeah, something happens. Hey, hold on! I need to put down my ice scratchers, so I'll it's got a button that you put on your handlebars. It does have the feature where it picks up your voice and then activates, but another friend of ours that's used them for decades didn't recommend using that because he said the engine sounds and stuff just pick it up and activate it when you don't want it to. So it's got a wireless button, you put it on your handlebars, push that, and so one person at a time can talk. Okay. So I think we were at Tug Hill. Push the button, hey, hold on guys, I'm gonna put my scratchers down. Then at least they know, you're stopping for a second or whatever. Or I gotta put my Pilot TS skis a little deeper or bring them up or whatever. That you can't, or hey, you guys want to keep riding or you want to go get something to eat?
Right. Yeah.
And me and Gary, we're going to keep riding.
Much safer though.
Yeah,
definitely
it does.
Much safer.
Yeah. Yep, I love it. I'm so glad we got them. And now I'm glad that my brother got one finally because now all of us will have one. And if you watch the Tug Hill video from March 20th this year.
You met that guy, right?
Dave.
Yep,
nice guy.
I recognize him. I don't know where I mean him all over the place up there, so.
He does ride a lot up there. That's where you probably saw him. So he bought one too. So if he goes riding with us, he'll have a communicator. He's got a couple friends he said had them too, so it made sense to buy the Chatterbox.
My friends do too, but we're all starting to get new helmets.
Yeah.
Switching up from that modular because it's just so heavy on the neck. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to try to put them in the new helmet or if they're going to go with something new.
You guys going to like motocross style or snowcross?
I've always I like the open face. I ended up buying
like a true open face?
Yeah, I had a 509. I just ended up buying a CKX Titan.
Like with nothing in the front.
No, just the motocross one.
Okay.
I ended up buying that.
I got like Fonzie style.
No, listen, you don't put that past me.
Yeah, right.
Because sometimes you'll see me riding around the yard when it's 10 degrees with shorts and a t-shirt on, bringing the sled around, oiling it up.
Yeah.
So I think my one buddy bought the Mission, and then now that we both have both the CK Axis, some of them are kind of interested in how they're going to work. And
no, the Mission that's a different.
The Mission's like the modular. It's more modular style, but you get the carbon and it's so much lighter. Okay. After like 20 minutes of moguls, I'm hanging my head like this with the modular on me. I can't stand it.
You got to work out your neck muscles.
I'll pull over too for getting claustrophobic. Take it off.
Really?
Work up a sweat. I'll take it off. Yeah. Cool off. I get car sick when I'm in the car, and sometimes that's what that modular does to me.
Okay.
So when I couldn't get a good seal on my 509, that's why I went to the CKX Titan. So I did my review, or I did an unboxing, and I bought it at the end of the season. I haven't got to use it yet. I'm waiting patiently.
Yeah, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was in my 20s, before we got out of it for the first time, I had a HJC with a heated shield. But back then, all snowmobiling was done sitting down. So when I got the 2000, even though it was still that old body style, handlebar risers, now you're standing up and you got this cord draping. Yeah. And by then, my brother, Shag, Gary, they already had the modular helmets. Right. So I found one online and I got one. And I don't know, I'm sure you hadn't seen it because it's an older video, but first ride out, it wasn't working. Like my breath was coming up through the mask and it was still fogging up everything, and I didn't know how to remedy that at first because I had no idea how the thing functioned. You put the thing on, you snap it, okay, that's all I know.
Right.
It's not working.
Yeah.
Well, I figured if you adjust those little snorkel pieces so that when you snap it in, it's pushing the nose piece toward your face, that sealed it up. So as long as you don't let that thing slip forward, you can tighten them up all you want. It's not going to pull it enough if it's tilted forward. Right. So once I did that, then I was like, okay, this thing is awesome. No more cables, and that's why when I ordered the Blizzard, I didn't order it with a heated plug, shield plug, so because I wasn't going to need it.
Yeah. You know? I'm not knocking the modulars. I just don't like my cheeks being pressed on and the weight of them.
Fit right.
That's what I was complaining about last year, leading in to get a new helmet. I'm like, we spend thousands of dollars. Why can't I get an effing helmet that works right?
Yeah. You're right.
That's all I want.
Right. That's not the most expensive piece, so you should. There's a lot of them out there. Yeah.
So, do you guys ever ride with new people? Like, I'm talking. This question's based off of like if somebody's getting into snowmobiling. Is there like a day in a life type of thing you would do with them? Something you would say, hey, let's go do this, or?
Not really. We kind of don't want anybody riding with us. We hate people. No, to be honest, Dennis or Duke, that's been riding with us a lot last year, I only met him through my channel. He came to meet me at one of our snowmobile shows here in Rochester, and I put out a video years ago and said, hey, I'm going to be here such and such date. A handful of people came down. He was one of them with his son, met me, and we stayed in touch.
Right.
And then I think we rode like one time, a season or two later, and then last year was really the first season where he rode with us a lot.
Quite a bit.
That's
awesome.
I even stayed at his. He doesn't do it every year, but he brings an RV up to the Old Forge Camping Resort.
Oh, okay.
And so last year I stayed at his place once.
Very cool.
Because it can get a little crowded down there at Shag's cabin. It only sleeps about 6.
Okay.
But no, you probably could sleep 10. But
really?
It was just convenient because we were
place to sleep.
The timing,
Yeah.
Some guys are going up at this time. These guys so I drove up with Dennis, and so I stayed at his place. And actually, it was great. He's got a really nice RV. It was comfortable, warm, and couldn't complain about that. Yeah. So he started riding with us last year. We rode with that guy Dave at the very last ride of the season. Shag and my brother Zook rode with him the week before, and Gary and I didn't want to go because we're like, there's no way there's enough snow to ride. You know what I mean? We're looking everywhere around, even Old Forge.
Right.
You know,
the forest.
Like, trust me. Exactly. Like, trust me. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And so they made plans to meet up with him, the next week. And Gary and I said, all right, we're in. And even though it was a packed base, and Dennis and I have scratchers, so we had no issues.
Right.
We had lubrication, we had cooling,
right.
But everybody else, none of the other guys had scratchers. Everybody was overheating, and Dave ended up blowing the motor on his 50 edition.
Ooh.
But he rebuilt it. He bought a brand new motor. It's done and ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right. It's that time. It's freaking story time.
Oh, no.
Your favorite story? Got one?
I have a couple. We'll start with the throughway story. There's actually a video on my channel about this called the Throughway Mishap. So we're on our way to Old Forge. It was me, Gary, and Shag. And we're driving Gary's truck. And I don't know where the hell we were, but we're about 3/4 of the way there. And Gary's a very responsible guy. He checks every nut and bolt. He does this, does that. He's always prepared, and he thought he had enough gas in his truck to make it to the next exit, and we ran out of gas on the throughway.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
so we're like racking our brains. Shag was thinking of taking his sled on the trail to ride, ditch banging it somewhere. But we're like racking our brains. What are we gonna do? So Gary looks in the back seat, got a case of water or whatever, and then Shag runs over to his sled, looks under the hood, rips a hose off of it. Gary empties 2 bottles of water, and so Shag took that hose, he's siphoning into the bottle, filled 2 bottles. I'd run them over to Gary, he'd pour them in the truck, I'd run back to Shag, fill up 2 more bottles, we did about, I don't know, 12 regular sized water bottles of gas.
That is amazing.
Siphoned out of one of the sleds, poured it into the truck, and it got us to.
And people are rubbernecking like, why is that guy running?
yeah. And that was it. Siphon, fill them up, run them over, Gary pour them in, I run back and forth. 12 bottles of gas later, and we had enough. Made it to the gas station. Never happened again. I mean, modern trucks, they tell you how many miles you got left, and it didn't do it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I like that. And that's a piece of snowmobiling I love. Like, some people would be like, I'm never going on the thruway again. Snowmobilers are like,
yeah, nobody's coming to help you.
Everybody's coming back this way, and there's a blizzard, and you're heading that way. We ran out of gas. We got to get there, though. Let's get this gas out of the snowmobiles and get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that was. We were worried for a few minutes. We're like, I don't know. What do you do? It's not like somebody can. You're in the middle of the thruway, New York State thruway. It's not like you're on a street and somebody could just bring you a gas can. I mean, you got to get on and ride miles and miles and miles between exits.
And if it snows, they're shutting it down. So you're caught in a...
Yeah. So don't... Make sure your trailers are well maintained. Because if you get a flat tire on your trailer on the thruway, it's no picnic. Yeah. But, so that was one I'll never forget right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
I got more, but I don't know how much time you got here.
I don't know how much time I have on this either. If you got a little short one, you can do, or a little short one.
I don't know how short it is.
It's up to you. It's all up to you.
Yeah.
Because from here, I'm just gonna leave it open for you to, shout yourself out, and maybe your club if you want to, or whatever you.
Yeah, well, I belong.
Like my buddy did the mini Z. He showed his mini Z that he got for his little kid for Christmas. So that's how he ended his.
Did you get a new one or a used one?
05 or 06. Okay, his doc buddy sold it to him. He got lucky, and
Gary had two mini Zs for his little girls when they were younger. They're a lot bigger now, so he finally sold the last one this year. But he had a couple mini Zs for them, and they're good for little kids.
Like everything else, they're hard to find right now. And his buddy, that he has a boat, had a dock next to him, was like, "Oh, I got one. My kids are outgrowing it," so he scored big time. And the thing is mint condition too.
Nice. Yeah, they're the prices. You gotta see what they're getting for a little mini Z these days. It's insane. Yeah. But like everything right now, the housing market, the snowmobile market, everything.
Oh, our snowmobile chat. I think they just put in the chat one of the guys an 06 that's going for $8,500.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm like, it's a good year if you ordered a brand new sled and you get it, you got a fair price.
Right.
And then you could sell your other sled for way more than it normally would be worth, which I'm in that position. But unfortunately, I have to hang on to it till the new one arrives.
Right.
I thought I would already have the new sled by now, and that's not it. So, but hopefully it'll only be...
And he's still not telling anybody, guys.
Not yet. I want to make it a surprise.
No, I get it.
I did tell you, though.
No, what'd you do that for?
Yeah.
Do not comment in the comments below. I will not tell you.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure.
He cracks. I'm going to hunt him down. I know where he lives. But, so it's like, hurry up and wait, I just hope that sled comes and it's fully functional, because I hear a lot of people, they're ordering a sled, and even the desk post, the that little knob on there, if you're not familiar with Skidoo, it's your security key.
I would like to do a video with that.
Yeah, and they're saying the new sleds are not, they have the post on there, but any fob will start the sled. So they had to come up with a way to lock that, and they don't even have enough locks to go around.
I think you might be able to drive it too with it on it.
Without it on?
I think,
It's possible. I don't know. I just hope I don't get my sled, and because it's like the last thing you want is a brand new sled to get stolen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if it's an older sled, they know they're not stealing that. Right. Unless you pick it up physically and load it into a vehicle or something, you're not stealing an old sled, because that desk system is great. It works. But if the thing is, people know they're not functional on a brand new sled, and they just walk up to it, plug one in, and go. Yeah, can walk away.
Yeah. What a nightmare.
We'll see what happens.
F you, COVID.
How much can do, man? Come on, let's be honest.
Well, I think they probably knew that, right?
Yeah, sort of. You never know. I do like Polaris a lot, but...
Well, then you definitely wouldn't be getting here sledding.
Exactly. Be just in time for spring.
Yeah.
Or
There's still a snowbank in my front yard. I'm going to go for a quick ride.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um...
Any last questions?
No, that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been enjoying doing these. I really want to turn this into like a legit, keep doing it like this style, but I want to do a studio in my basement, and then be able to upload the video voice file to the audio file to Spotify. Yeah. And I don't know how much traction it would get, but why not do it? Because I have all the audio, you know.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
Absolutely, somebody's got to do it.
And like I said,
there aren't a lot of snowmobiling podcasts out there because I've looked. Because that's what I like to do while I'm working. I sit at a computer all day,
right,
so I like to listen to stuff.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll listen to snowmobile sessions. It might take me 3 days to listen to a whole episode because I have to get up from my desk from time to time. But I'll get through it, and maybe I wasn't able to watch it per se, but most of it's audio. Except for the picture type. But
I'm also set on. Well, I'm not set on just keeping it snowmobiling as the seasons change. Yeah. I got a lot of family at hunts. I fish. I got a lot of family at fishes. Yeah. I just think it'd be cool just to have somewhere to go during those off seasons. And like I said, I don't care if some people don't watch it. It's for me. I'm doing it for me.
I hear you.
Me and my friends and the people.
So you say you hunt, right? You like to hunt?
Yeah, I don't hunt as much as I have in the past, but
yeah, same here. Not that I'm some big time hunter or anything like that, but I'd like to go, but I just don't have anywhere to go anymore. Right. And so it's like, well, what's the point of buying a hunting license if you got nowhere to go? I don't want to go on state land because you don't know who's out there. Yeah. It can get dangerous. I want a piece of private property where you either own it or the owner and they said you can go there and you're safe. Somebody's there, they're not supposed to be there, whatever. But it's too dangerous, for me, I think, to go someplace that I'm not familiar with and hunt where other people are hunting.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah. I agree with you. So, I actually get, I'll put this out there, I get actually bad anxiety in the woods sometimes.
Really?
My whole life, and my family is like super into hunting. My grandparents had the place growing up, who my aunt now owns, and sometimes when I'm just randomly, and I think some of it comes from, it wasn't as bad when I was there, but if I did hunt a state property or I was hunting with a friend that I'd never been there before, and you never know if that freaking lead's going to be up in your tree.
You're right. You're absolutely
have no
right.
idea. But I am a fisherman through and through.
Yeah.
Like that's my snowmobiling fishing. That's my that's my
they're
thing.
Different seasons. Well, you could combine them. Go ice fishing.
We're too invested. Can't do it.
No,
we're too invested in snowmobiling.
You're right. There's that one guy from Canada, and his channel's like up and down, but he and his buddies, they'd go out there and they'd ride their sleds a little bit and go ice fishing and cook the fish on the fire and all that stuff. But that looks so fun.
I used to go to Lake Simcoe, which is in Canada. Mm-hmm. Me and my older cousin would take me when I was younger. Great time, unbelievable. Go out in like the Zamboni looking thing.
Yeah.
You'd be out there, slides would be ripping by. You're in a hut the size of this thing, with a big hole in it, 80 degrees, blizzarding out.
Right.
It's only worth it if you're staying the weekend, and you're staying the weekend out on ice. If you're not doing that, but fast forward to snowmobiling, look at the prices we pay for these new things. And like my family has a camp, and Zook's family has a camp. Yeah. That's or a shag, I meant to say. Yeah. They have a camp. You got to use that stuff when there's snow. I can't be messing with little fishing poles when.
No, you're right. I mean, it's too expensive. That's why when we go up there, now, like I said, half of it is the camaraderie.
Right.
But we did go there to ride.
Right.
And it's a little disappointing when you put more miles on your truck than you did your sled. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if we're going to drive that far, let's ride.
Right, yeah.
Now I know we're not, we're getting older. We're a little bit older than you are. And so but Gary's, even though he's, he's a year younger than me, and he's like he's 20 years old still. You know what I mean? So he can go all day with nothing to eat, and, and still ride 100 miles an hour all day. So even though I can't quite keep up that pace, I still want to ride more than my brother Zook and Shag, because they both got bad backs, and so good thing we got modern sleds. So it really made a difference when Shag switched from the old Arctic Cat ZR to an R Motion. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, it was like night and day. When the first time he rode my Blizzard, he noticed the difference. And that's what makes him go longer, for longer rides. But they still don't mind taking a break. There's times where they'll stop and Gary and Al keep going or something. But most of the time, we stick together.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yes.
Well, seriously, great to meet you. So much fun.
Thanks for having me. We did this live from my trailer.
The trailer he's been posting about. Yeah. If I remember while I'm uploading, I'll shoot one of his videos of the trailer in there. Maybe the latest one would probably be the best one, right?
Did this season. I did 4 trailer mod videos. You can check those out. If you're so inclined. But no, I just figured I'd make this my own and make it better.
And that's exactly what you did.
Yeah, made it.
That is exactly what you did.
So I figured, hey, if when we had the clamshells, it was limited to just put the sleds in there. You couldn't even put a bag in there because it would get dirty. There was no place to put it. So that was it. But this is enclosed, and the sky's the limit. I mean, not completely, but I mean, it does have some options, and I took that to, as far as I could, pretty much, with the accessories that I put in.
Right.
Didn't break the bank either. You know what I mean?
I like it, man. You did an amazing job.
Thank you.
I mean, you'll be having a few cocktails at the end of a ride off this little table right here.
Show them how this works. Here. This shelf here that I installed, this was the 4th phase, and it was like, you need a shelf in here, right? But you can't have a shelf up. I wish that camera was a little higher, because it's like straight on. So
you know what I can do? I don't need to be in the shot, to be honest with you. I
just hold the camera.
Take this camera right off. All right, now you're on.
So this was phase 4 of my trailer mod series. I installed this shelf. So these are stainless steel brackets. All I had at the moment was some finished birch plywood, like cabinet grade. I'm gonna have to treat it with something, but it's collapsible. So essentially, there's 2 little levers here. Boom, goes right down. If you want to pick it up, locks right in place. So I'll put it down one more time, and then to keep it from bouncing around, I just drill a couple holes in here, and just lock it in there. Got 2 straps. That's it. Do the same thing with the other one, and it should keep it in place for when it's going down the road.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's just a teaser. Right? You're gonna have to go watch the rest.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. So, thank you so much for tuning in. That was a blast. I have so much fun doing these. I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do, and as much as we do when recording them. And as always, do me that favor. Tell your grandmas, your grandpas, your moms, your dads, your aunts, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your friends, your frenemies, your enemies, all them people, like and share these videos. And thank you for the support, guys. I love you guys. It's almost a holiday season. I said it in the last one. I hope you're enjoying your families and your friends. Love you guys. Peace out. We will see you next time. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
How do you memorize all that frenemy stuff?
I don't.